IEBC the other day just gave us a directive to the political class on campaign funds. The cap there is, we're talking about the president spending close to 4.4 billion shillings, And whilst one would look at it and say, at least there is some control, do we ever pause to ask the question, where is the source of these funds that these individuals are spending in this election? Because at the end of the day, as someone is campaigning, there ought to be, okay, fine, I withdrew it from this bank, but I made it through these means. Therefore, I can spend it because it is my money and I can prove to the system there is where this money came from. Because accountability, remember what I said, election is a process. And how that process ends up giving us leaders will be determined by a lot of things, including the source of these funds. Because money laundering is a reality during electioneering process. While IEBC is telling us you will spend 4.4 billion shillings, we are not seeing KRA saying we need to see the source of funds. Should they work hand in hand? Because it's an ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you raise a fantastic question, and I want to just piggyback off of the last question, which is elections do not happen in a vacuum. They're a process that happens within a context. And if we have laws that are ignorant of that context, then they are not effective. So one of the hardest issues to prosecute in an election is vote buying, because we live in an environment that does two things. One, you repress the people so much economically that this bribery is what they are looking forward to because they don't know better. To the average voter in Olkalau, this voter bribery conversation is a very elitist conversation. It just does not resonate. And so one of the things we must always ask is, what is the system that perpetuates that? The second thing is, we must remember that we inherited a system that is very patronage based, and every elected official comes into that system. You keep the people so suppressed so that when you give them handouts, then you are electable. In fact, look at how we choose leaders to re-elect. We elect them based on their development record, meaning if you don't have a record of what you have done for us, we cannot do anything for you. Now, let's bring that conversation to the campaign financing conversation. I think as a country, we have gotten the conversation on campaign financing wrong. I think the entire structure is wrong. I think what we ought to have is a political financing model. Why do I say that? The campaign financing model tries to regulate how much we spend on an election period, whereas, as you rightly pointed out, elections are a process. Let's be honest. The current president began campaigning for his presidency in 2017. Right? He did not begin campaigning 6 months to August 2022, right? So if you come up with regulations like the IBC has done, where we are trying to regulate how much you spend in the 6 months before the election, we are really trying to rein in the horse when it has already bolted from the stall. We are trying to create an illusion that we are doing something, but the reality is we are not even putting a dent in it, right? So even before we deal with the amounts that we're dealing with, we need to look at the periods. And for me, having an election campaign financing law that limits the period within which we're regulating financing makes it a non-starter. Number two, you're talking about the sources and whether it should be a multi-agency conversation. The law is good in various ways. For example, it tries to say don't use illegal money, don't get more than 20% of your money from one person, don't get money from foreign governments. It gives some parameters. The question is the capacity of the law to check compliance, because the law is based on self-reporting. The entire framework requires you to come and tell me, where did you get your money? Did your money meet the limits? Did you use it the way we told you to use it? Now, if we live in a culture like Kenya where we are less than honest, what are the chances that during elections I will be honest to now tell you where I got my money and how I used it, and to channel it through the authorized expenditure account, which the law requires. Highly unlikely. So the entire framework for me is faulty because it presupposes a context that Kenya does not have, which is a context of honesty and a context of accountability. And then we saddle the IEBC, poor IEBC, with a job of policing this culture that is less than honest.
Because, Wakili, because at the end of the day, for a politician to report themselves, that would mean if I withdrew it, I need to equally submit receipts to IEBC on the expenditure.
Yes.
Okay.
But let's also be honest about our economy. Kenya has a very informal, cash-based economy.
Yes.
I mean, every weekend we see the president, deputy president with money that they are moving out to one church or development project or another. So when this law requires that we inherit bank accounts, tuambiane ukweli, even in the way we ordinarily do politics, we don't operate accounts. Money is moving in a very informal system. So how much accountability is there? How many people have receipts for the amount of money that they have been receiving over the weekend?
Yeah.
And then the law is even more ridiculous, if you ask me, because it says if you receive money from public resources, you must surrender the money to the IBC. Now, which person do you know who is going to voluntarily say, nilipewa 2 billion, hii pesa chukueni?